This is a story of Dave and Sharon finally living their dreams of sailing to the Caribbean and beyond. Join us while we share our adventures from getting the boat ready and embarking on our cruising life.
Sailed out of Buzzard Bay, and then when we turned, of course, we're smack into the wind. So we're kind of tacking, we're hugging it. Now we're out into Narragansett Bay, just about out from Connecticut. Yeah, we got big rollers coming in from the ocean. And some of them are short. They're only 2-3 feet, but they're kind of a short period. So we put the bow under in a couple of them, and but that's the way we do it. And of course, the autopilot's not working again, so we decided not to try to go into Cuttyhunk because of the depth, and so it's going to be either a very late or an early morning arrival at Block Island. We got a day or so to get down to Port Jefferson so we can pick our buddy up who's going to join us for a little bit of the trip. And I know you won't see him because he doesn't like to be on camera. So here we are at Block Island, Connecticut.
No, it's Block Island, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, sorry, Rhode Island. And we got in dark 30 this morning.
1:30. 1:30.
That's dark 30. 1:30. So right over there is our friends Dave and Cindy, who we were just we made friends with them in Florida, and they stopped at Onset. We were supposed to meet them in Maine, but we didn't make it. Here's a really interesting neighbor that just came in. Look at that. That's Columbia. Beautiful, beautiful boat. Yep, they just came in. You can see the anchorage here. Full of boats. Before we took the trip, the motor started kind of hard, and me being not as attentive as I should have, didn't shut the water off to it, so we got water in the oil. And I looked at it and I said, well, we had just changed the oil. We haven't even run the engine with it. So I said, let's run her and see if we can burn the water off. And so we did. And the motor ran okay. And it looked like it started heating up again when we went up to 1600 RPM, and then went back to 14. And it cooled back down. Actually, we sailed. We had a good sail at the beginning. So we were sailing at 5 knots.
Yeah,
5 to 6.
Not that great.
5 to 6 knots. I didn't really have the sails completely out, and but I left the engine idling, and it went back to temperature. We left it going all day because once we got down to Cuttyhunk, which we were going to go into Cuttyhunk, but we were back and forth again about that, whether it was deep enough, etc. So we said, let's keep going to...
This is what I decided. That it's not deep enough inside the harbor, pond, or whatever they call it there. We had to be outside, and all the winds that were coming from the northwest, wherever they were coming from, was going to rock and roll. We weren't going to sleep anyways.
Yeah, it would have been a bad...
So why bother? We must just keep on going to Block Island. So we did, so we can at least get some sleep when we got here.
Yeah, and so we ended up motor sailing in some really, it wasn't rough, it was just not comfortable waves.
Oh, when we left Cuttyhunk, we all of a sudden, when all the waves are coming in and out of Buzzard's Bay and all that stuff, they were rollers.
Yeah.
Rollers. Even though I had no food in my stomach,
A little queasy there.
My
That's
Dave
the
said
word, queasy.
we were going to be out of internet service, and I said, "Oh, I got to go do this email stuff beforehand." 20 minutes on the computer, down in the cabin. And it's like, I got all my stuff done, and I said, I don't feel well. We're not having dinner. We didn't. We did not have dinner. I'm fine without dinner. He did really well. Although right before bed he had to have an apple.
Well, I had some nuts too. So the oil was the first debacle in the water, and what happens there is if your engine doesn't start right away, like snaps right up, you should shut your water off, your seawater, because it gets sucked back through the exhaust system, and that's what happened to us. And so I left the motor running pretty much the whole day. We idled while we sailed, and then the rest of the day we had to motor sail and then motor. And then the second thing that happened to us is right off the bat, the minute I put the autopilot, which you remember from previous videos, I've rebuilt, etc. I got it running well. It didn't work again. And so what was happening with that is it would correct itself to the starboard, but not to the port. So it would go one way, but not the other. And the starboard correction wasn't pegging it. So anyway, what happened with the port side is that when you use the autopilot and switched it on, it would just lock it straight ahead where it's going. Wherever you put the wheel, it would just lock it. So later on, so we hand steered most of the way, and then later on at night, the waves calmed down a little bit, and I found that if I put myself on course and put the autopilot on and locked it, it would stay pretty much on course and just drift off to one side. And then I would turn the wheel, I would unlock it, turn the wheel just slightly and lock it again, and just let it drift from, being 500 or 600 feet off our course to back again. We left Block Island in some nice weather, north winds, probably 5 or 6 knots, 7 or 8 knots, not heavy. So we're motor sailing right around 6, between 5.5 and 6 knots, heading for Port Jefferson. And the motor is so far running really well. Last night I checked the oil, and we did burn the water off, but it also took about a quart, probably 2 quarts of oil burnt out with it. So I filled that up last night, and this morning everything's running pretty darn good, which is good news.
We ended up going into Port Jefferson to pick up our buddy who was sailing part of the trip with us down to the Chesapeake. And we have friends there, Lee and Joe, and we went and visited them as well. And they have 3 dogs, and they were fostering a puppy. So it was really fun to see them. So the next day we started to head towards the East River, and we heard on the VHF radio that they closed the western side of Roosevelt Island because of a UN assembly, which means you couldn't go between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and our plan was to head down, and we were going to be going through right around 3.
Now we can't go on the east side of Roosevelt. There's a nasty bridge over there that's taken out a couple other boats, sailboats. So I'm not sure if if it's supposed to have the clearance for us, but it doesn't always raise all the way. And once you're going in that current, you're not going to stop or turn around. And so we've met a couple of people that lost their masts on that, so we decided not to attempt to do that.
So we headed into Port Washington, which was right before the beginning of the East River, saying, all right, if we can't go now, we will plan to go in the wee hours of the morning.
So we're anchored at Port Washington, got there in the daylight. Not a bad little anchorage, but while we're there, we get hit with a thunderstorm cell that was pretty intense. And of course, with our CQR anchor, we started dragging. So started the motor up. We were watching everything on the charts. So we started the motor up and moved further up again and re-anchored, and just kept the motor on for the storm. It wasn't that long, but it was pretty intense and windy. That's going to be an awesome view.
And of course, lights not going to work. So we headed down the East River and the wee hours, as we said, and it was slow going because of the current and everything else. We planned it for somewhere around slack tide, but it still took forever. So we barely made it past Roosevelt Island before 7 a.m.
And near the end there, we got a police escort. They were probably just checking to make sure we cleared it by then.
And we got through, and it was smooth sailing after that. So we actually ran across another boater that we met up in Onset, SV Minerva. And it was really cool that we were kind of heading in the same direction at around the same time. But anyways, we went over to the mouth of the Delaware and stayed in Lewis. Did we stay there overnight? Or we only...
Yes,
yeah, we did. Because
we did, and Minerva moved to a marina. And we didn't think we could get into it. It was a little shallow for us.
There was a storm out.
There was a storm coming, so...
Well, actually, the waves...
the big waves were supposed to come in.
And we didn't want to be caught
So
in it.
we headed up the Delaware, because what we wanted to do is go up to the C&D Canal and then work our way down the Chesapeake. And so we headed out the next morning, and we had some good sailing for the beginning, for about halfway or so. And then we had to turn right into the wind, and the problem is that you can't really tack up there because it gets shallow on the sides with a lot of crab pots, so you have to pretty much stay in the channel. So we were motoring into some pretty big waves, but we made it up, and of course had to go in and anchor in the middle of the night.
But hey,
and
we managed.
Yeah, we managed. We got out of, and we understand that there were gigantic waves that came into that anchorage that we were
And other boaters dragged.
Yeah.
So we most likely would have. So I'm glad we got out of there. Lighthouse heading into Delaware Bay. Okay, Jason.
So we are leaving. Cut 2. So we are leaving Lewis at the tip of the Delaware Bay, We have about 10 to 13 knots of wind in our favor right now. See our mist here. Yeah, there you go. And we are actually under sail. Listen, listen. Yeah, no motor. First time in a long time. We've got all 3 sails fully out, doing what? Around 5 knots. Sometimes between 5 and 6 knots. And we are happy sailing.
Okay, here was the marina that said you can come in at high tide. Only thing is you couldn't. We got stuck in the mud, but somehow we wiggled our way out. And we did not stop and get fuel. On to the next place. After leaving the C&D Canal, we went over to the Sassafras River and hung out for a while. And our buddy who was helping us
had to get back to his boat.
Had to get back to his boat in Florida. And so he left, and we picked up Kelly in his place. We kind of met in a town called Betterton and switched people. So then we had Kelly for a little while, and
although she didn't really sail with us, she followed us down by car.
Followed us by car.
From one anchorage to the next.
While we were at the Sassafras River, we took the dog for a walk, found a great beach. Actually, I never went. I stayed on the boat. But Dave and Kelly and the dog went, and apparently this beach is underwater at high tide, but at low tide, there's a nice beach. We're going to go to Rock Creek, which is southern part of Baltimore. Plus it's got a bunch of marinas there and some restaurants, and it looks like better places to get ashore and go shopping and stuff. I have to replace my battery cables on my Perkins. I have to jump start it just about every time to get enough juice and shut the water off on it. As soon as we get to the port, and I turn the water off and then turn the engine. Mostly because if it starts hard, then it sucks water into the cylinders, into the oil. So
So here we still are in Rock Creek with, I don't know what the winds are outside, but we're getting, I don't know if we'll get this in line. No, 16 to 17. We're getting 15 to 17 knots at the top of the mast here. It doesn't feel as bad on the boat. You see, the waves are tiny because they're pretty much blocked by the entrance up there. It probably would be a little calmer if we went over there, but I don't think it's deep enough. It's iffy. Kind of missed our spot. We tried to move up a little there and we ended up here again. There was actually better holding back here, but then right up in there, somebody, a couple boats snuck up in there, and so there's no room for us to get in there. They've got a good quiet anchor. You know, it's little channel in there that's deep enough. But we haven't moved. Got the anchor alarm out. Tonight's supposed to go up to possibly 50 knot gusts, but we won't see that in here. We get blocked a lot of this. It's probably 25 to 30 right now out in the Bay area, and like I said, we're just barely seeing 15 to 18, and that's at the top of the mast. The boat itself is, yeah, now we got 19, 20. So the boat itself is not really seeing that type of wind. It gets blocked off by the land over here. There's the entrance there. So it looks like it's coming right in the entrance, but it's really not. There's land over here that is blocking any waves. This land and that land are both blocking any big waves that come in. So this little ripple we're getting is whatever forms right here in the creek itself. We're so buried in the mud now, and I think I have about 170 to 180 feet of chain out. So I've got that's probably 13 feet of water. So I've got plenty of scope out. She seems to be stuck pretty good in there. She's not moving. Then we just sit here and ride it out.
Well, the dinghy deflates in the cold, and so Dave is going to pump it up. We went up to our friends in Pennsylvania. We went up to Phil and Leslie's house for a day excursion. We all hopped into Kelly's car and went up and enjoyed time with them. Checked out their yard, had a nice dinner. It was fun. Here we are at Phil and Leslie's house.
They took it off the internet. Her trail of the trail.
But I have the screenshots on my phone.
Yeah. It's a pretty day. It's a beautiful day.
Don't jump. Now we're in the rocks. Shoes. I don't know. unbelievably terrified of rocks in the water. Oh boy. Oh, it's the rocks. She don't like the rocks. Oh no. Oh no, no, Phoebe, it's fine. Alright, I got stuck, so I'm just gonna push myself off. No, Phoebe, don't. Alright then. You hide back then. You little scaredy cat. These are rocks. Oh, you poor girl. Come here.
We are now heading to the Annapolis Boat Show, Sailboat Show. Again, this is Kelly's car. Waiting in boat show line. It's about, I don't know, quarter of it. Open to 10.
Yeah.
Well, so here we are at the YouTube tent. That's Blue and Brady in there. Calico Skies is down there.
Okay, nice. All right, I'll take that if you want. You guys are just friends.
Thank you.
Come on and get back, come on and get back, if you can. Come on and get back, come on and get back, come on and get back. Come on, you're down with the hands and the floor to the top. Thank you! A place to put it, picture, speaking, razor,
So we went out of the show so we can go find a restaurant. Everything in the show was completely packed. And we're with Steve and Karen, who we met in Florida. Sailing Intermission. And I just missed him dancing. You're going to have to catch it on the way back.
I was smug, we really are. Well, whatever, we keep growing for some reason.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
We got people behind us, so.
We're all in here.
Don't know.
No, I'm here.
Is it even on?
Here we are. Yeah, party down.
Put your eye to it again. So, and here we are with Steve and Karen, some neighbors from Florida, Sailing Intermission. You see them on YouTube. Follow them.
And it's great to meet up with you all.
Yeah.
So we have
Oh,
this, we met up with them at the Annapolis Boat Show, and we had an awesome lunch.
And follow Dave and Sharon's new YouTube channel called Huntress.
Yes.
And here we are having dinner, not at the boat show, a lunch outside of the boat show because it was too crowded inside.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Right.
Ooh.
We want to say thank you to all of our viewers who have subscribed and commented. We appreciate your support and feedback. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. This really helps us build our channel up so we can keep bringing you more videos.